Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Grower Supply's webinar on ClearSpan high tunnels. We are happy that you were able to join us this afternoon. My name is Kyle Brostek, and I am the Direct Media Manager for Grower Supply, and it is my pleasure to introduce Karen Meister, one of our Senior National Account Managers, who will be presenting our webinar today. Karen specializes in high tunnel sales, and she is a very knowledgeable resource in these areas. Your questions, and I should mention that we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If your questions are not answered today, we urge you to contact her directly. Her contact information will be displayed during the presentation. If you do have a question, please send it in using the chat or the Q&A features on your screen. As I mentioned, we will have a Q&A session immediately following the presentation, during which Karen will answer your questions about ClearSpan high tunnels. I will now hand the mic over to Karen, and we'll get started. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today on our talk on high tunnels. I know I did speak to some people who were in the midst of transplanting into their high tunnels this morning. The weather has been so gorgeous. So let's talk a little bit about high tunnels. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been involved in the horticultural industry for the last 30 years. I've had experience with both greenhouses, garden centers, commercial shrub growing, and also owned my own horticultural business for the last 20 years. I graduated from the University of Connecticut with a degree in horticulture, and am very happy that I did. So today we're going to tell you a little bit about what goes on and how high tunnels are a little bit different than greenhouses. What your high tunnels are that we offer and which one would work best for you. A little bit about how the watering system works, some money that's out there that's available through the USDA, why you should choose Grower Supply, and how we can help you finance some of your choices. Grower Supply is one of the leading manufacturers of greenhouses and high tunnels. We ship both locally, nationally, and internationally on a daily basis. The company itself has been involved in business since 1979, so we have over 30 years experience in both agriculture and horticultural arenas. The company itself is owned and operated in the United States of America. We have two campuses. One is our manufacturing campus in Iowa. We're located right smack dab in the middle of the country, so it's easy for us to access and service both coasts. And our corporate headquarters in Connecticut, just outside of Hartford, where our call center and our offices are located. We're also very proud of our new technology center located on our Iowa campus. It's there that we've had instructional classes, we hold seminars, and actually have hands-on demonstrations. The website and our catalogs have an updated list of coming events and dates listed, if that would be something that you would be interested in. It's a state-of-the-art facility. We have a 35 by 48 greenhouse and also a gutter-connected 80 by 50 greenhouse, which showcases our hydroponics systems and also other different growing media. I encourage you to come visit. It's a wonderful place to learn. We do feel that it would behoove you to register so that we can make sure that there's an appointment for someone to take you through and show you the technical center and how it operates. Let's talk a little bit about high tunnels. High tunnels are steel pipe frames in greenhouse that are covered with either greenhouse film or fabric. Basically, a high tunnel is meant to extend the growing season on both the front and the back ends of the season. They're usually not heated, and they can be covered with just one layer of poly or fabric, and usually electricity is not provided to them. Again, they're used to extend the growing season. They serve to protect crops from unreliable growing conditions as well as insects if you add insect screening. It's easy to control water with a drip irrigation system. You end up with improved crop yields. That's something that we found was something that was very important here in Connecticut. We had a tomato blight the last 2 years, so farmers that were growing under high tunnels didn't have the same problems with their crops as those of us who did not grow under high tunnels. High tunnels themselves offer natural ventilation, both in side vents and also gable vented ends as well. And often that's all that's needed to get the air circulating and moving to cool the house off. High tunnels are low price per square foot. Some high tunnels are as low as $2 a square foot. They're also very easy to build, to maintain, and they're very movable. ClearSpan high tunnels can be purchased for as low as $2 a square foot. Most of the models that we supply include frames, covers, ventilation, hardware, end panels, and anchoring, so it's all included in one kit. Again, manufactured in the United States with American-made steel that's triple galvanized both inside and outside. They're easy to install. A typical 30 by 72 foot unit would take approximately 95 man-hours to put up, or 4 guys, a couple of days to do it very easily. Some of the different model options is that we offer a round style high tunnel. Our high roller high tunnel has the option to roll up the sides for ventilation as high as 15 feet. This helps provide more natural ventilation, again, without electricity. It's a hand crank and or a gearbox method to roll it up, so it would make it easy for even a child to be able to ventilate the house itself. The kits themselves include everything that you need in one easy packet. Each includes ground posts for anchoring, and it's all delivered to you on a shrink-wrapped pallet to make sure that all the parts are there. We offer an economy model in the round style that sells for just $1.93 per square foot. So as you can see, it's very affordable. Again, the economy model also includes the anchors, the cover, and the roll-up sides. Our premium round style high tunnel, which is our most popular model and also is the most popular choice for NRCS grants. It falls under the 30 by 72 size, falls just under the amount that is allocated for the grant, and with the 4-foot rafter spacing, it makes the unit very strong. Comes with premium roll-up sides that again are controlled by a gearbox. So it's a 15-to-1 gearbox that makes it very easy for the side panels to be rolled up and ventilated. It also comes with end panels that have the ability to be rolled up as either one large door or 2 individual doors. The structure itself comes with the option of having a 5.2 ounce, 85% light transmission cover that is available for areas of the country where there's either a lot of sun or also windy areas. So it lends itself very well for the high desert or, again, particularly windy areas. The only thing that is not included in the premium round style high tunnel is baseboards. We do suggest the use of baseboards, which would be a 2x6 that would run the length of both sides of the greenhouse on the bottom, and either a 1x3 or a 1x4 hip or ribbon board, which serves as your place of attachment for your roll-up sides. If indeed you're going to be doing something either organic or get your organic certification, We also do include and have available recycled lumber that you can purchase that does meet the standards for organically grown certification. Here are a few of some of our customers' pictures that demonstrate the different ways that you can grow in high tunnels. On the bottom left and also the top right, you can see where people are growing in rows and then also augmenting with some hanging baskets that are being hung on the purlins. In the center picture, you can see where people are growing. It looks like they're growing in pots inside, so they may be just hardening off some crops. We offer a straight-sided high tunnel. The nice thing about these is that they have a 6-foot sidewall, so you can get in, as you can see on this top slide, very close to the edge to maximize the space, allowing edge-to-edge use. Most of the models come, again, with roll-up or drop-down sides. It's your choice. Again, the advantages and disadvantages depends on that area of the country and the crop that you're growing. Most people will use roll-up sides. However, if you're in an area that's particularly cold, you might want to think about going with the drop-down sides so that when the air comes in, when you start to ventilate in the morning, the cooler air will go up and over the plants, not cooling down the roots too much and damaging the plants. Both of this type of high tunnel also is eligible for NRCS funding. We do have an excellent program with credit application and a copy of the grant contract. We offer special financing, and we can get you qualified for that with credit approval. These high tunnels are recommended for installation in all 50 of the states. Our Pro Solar Star high tunnels are a series that are offered with either 6 or 4-foot rafter spacing. Again, these also have a 6-foot sidewall, so you can get maximum use of your interior spacing. You have the option of either roll-up or drop-down sides. And again, this particular unit offers interior supports so that in areas where there is a lot of either snow or in windy areas, you can help strengthen the supports of the unit to make it more adaptable. Here's some of our pictures of some of our customers that have sent in again. On the left-hand side, you can see that they're harvesting lettuce directly. Again, you can see on the right-hand side where people are growing in the ground itself. Also, it's not uncommon for people to grow in raised beds as well. Our GrowMax Gothic High Tunnel is Gothic shaped. Again, it's got 4-foot standard rafter spacing. You also have the option here of going with a fabric cover. Again, if you're in an area that is particularly windy or in an area that is a high desert. The 6-foot sidewalls, again, allow maximum utilization of interior growing spaces. You have the option for roll-up or drop-down sides, your choice. And again, the end panels come so that there's a large 10 by 20 foot doorway, which makes it easy for tractors and vehicles to get in and out quite readily. As you can see on the bottom right-hand side, the door configuration comes with a hand crank that you can roll up, and again, makes it very accessible for any kind of large machinery or tractors to get in so you can cultivate. Most high tunnels, because of the fact that they are not out in the weather, have to have some sort of watering method to deliver water to the plants. The most efficient way is to use drip irrigation. Drip irrigation, our systems that we sell here are Netafim products. They consist mostly of 8mm thick drip tape that can be utilized for multi-seasonal use, either on the surface, as you can see in the picture on the bottom, or also it's safe to bury them up to 8 inches. The drip tape itself has 12-inch drip spaces. It's very easy to conserve water by this method because you're watering directly to the roots. You can zone out the different crops so that different crops that have different watering requirements can be turned on and off individually. And it can be easily connected directly to a garden hose PVC pipe. We do offer a soup to nuts variety of connectors so that you can use the hose bib assembly and flush out valves at the end of the line so that you can provide the water that the plants require. The NRCS program grants that are available from the federal government promote environmental sustainability while increasing locally grown food. Again, this allows you to grow organically, or you can also utilize integrated pest management, which, because the high tunnels are controlled as far as ventilation is concerned, you have the option of covering the vents with insect screening to prevent insect damage as well. The high tunnels themselves and the NRCS program expand the availability of healthy food to a greater number of people. So it enables you to know what's growing and going onto your food and into your family's diets. There has been over $13 million in high tunnel grants awarded in 38 states. Applicants must certify that they are an agricultural producer. There are certain requirements that need to be met, but again, it's money that is available, and I encourage you to check with your local NRCS office and your officers to see if there is money still available in your state. Why should you choose Grower Supply? Well, certainly our high tunnels all meet the specifications that are necessary for NRCS funding, so it makes it very easy to qualify and also to have inspection meet the standards. Most of our customers that receive the NRCS grants have had their first tunnel 100% funded. Again, our high tunnels are constructed with premium steel that's made in the United States. You can see a version of high tunnel here that has been connected at the 4-foot level, so it makes growing one crop under one ceiling, so to speak, a lot easier. Grower Supply offers several interest-free financing options. We can work with you for in-house financing as more of a customer service that we provide for our customers. You can choose several different programs that we offer based on either payments going directly onto an existing credit card, or we also have promissory note terms. Net 120 terms are also available with a copy of your NRCS contract, a credit application, and also credit approval. Well, I hope you've learned something here from me about our high tunnels. Certainly, again, high tunnels differ from greenhouses in that they mostly have just one layer of film, not two. They're used as season extensions, both pre and post-season, so that you can grow longer and start earlier. They're usually not, they don't have electricity provided to them, so that the natural ventilation is usually adequate enough so you don't have to have fans. And again, there's something that is very beneficial so that you can control the climate in all of the different crops that you raise. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, please send them along, and I'd be happy to answer anything. If indeed I don't know the answer, I will get it for you. Feel free, please, to also send to my email address. And I wanted to thank you for joining us today, and look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Thanks, Karen. We've already seen some questions roll in, so we'll be starting the Q&A session momentarily. Again, I encourage anyone who's attended the session today, if you have a question for Karen, please use the chat or Q&A box on your computer screen, and we'll be happy to answer the questions as they come in. We'll get started with that in a matter of moments. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of questions coming in now. Do you recommend taking the fabric or film down during the winter months for high snow load areas? Yes, indeed. Just like anything else, because the high tunnels are not heated, you're going to find that if indeed you have snow that accumulates, you would want to either do one of two things. Either take the tops off and then you don't have to worry about the snow accumulating, or oftentimes if you go in with a soft brush on the inside of the house and just give it a little tap, it more often than not will slide right off. In our experience, we've found that the snow slides better on the rounded high tunnels more so than the Gothic. And again, it's something that if you keep your eyes on the house, you shouldn't have a problem. Is there a size limit to these structures? No, indeed there is not. We do offer certain sizes that are standard. However, again, as manufacturers, we can pretty much make anything you need or want. Do you recommend many small structures or one large one? Again, it depends on the crop that you're growing. Just like everything else, if you're growing one crop and you want to put all the crop under one cover, then you'd be better off with a large gutter connected and or a connected one, as we saw in one of the pictures. Otherwise, the small structures make it almost as though you have individual microclimates in each one of the units, so it makes it easier to control, again, pests, watering, sun. Can these structures be expanded? Yes, indeed, they can. It's much easier, however, to expand it lengthwise rather than widthwise. Lengthwise, once you have one high tunnel, you can keep adding on infinitum for as long as you want. The widths, on the other hand, are a little bit harder to manage because of the fact that you then have to stand them next to each other and or somehow connect the two units so that they'd be one. Do pets like to make homes in these because they are sheltered? Well, some animals will. You find that they will go inside the high tunnel, but the way around that is that you can either use a poly-covered hex wire or galvanized fencing on the interior of the unit where it ventilates, and that will prevent those unwanted critters from getting inside. Some of the other questions we have are, aren't NRCS grants restricted to existing growers, i.e. not available to someone just starting out? For the most part, yes, indeed, that is true. However, the government has started to relax a little bit of the requirements. So again, it's best to check with your state NRCS office to make sure that you would meet all the different requirements that are necessary. Are any of the high tunnels snow load rated? No, we do not rate any of the high tunnels for snow or wind loads. And the reason that we don't do that is because of the fact that the only way that you can determine an accurate wind and snow load rating is if you have stamped prints by an engineer certified in your state that will state, yes, indeed, this particular unit is wind and snow load rated. And the reason that we don't do that is because of the fact that we have no control over what you put your high tunnel and or greenhouse on. I can tell you that one of our structures is wind and snow load rated for 40 miles an hour and 90 pounds of snow. You take that unit home, you put it up on, let's say, a balsa wood fence. The fence, a good wind comes along and the unit blows down. Well, the high tunnel technically is still wind and snow load rated for 40 miles an hour and 90 pounds of snow. However, it's fallen down. Well, now you don't have any legal stance. I mean, there's no way to prove that, yes, indeed, that was wind and snow load rated for that. So we found that because we can't control every different type of base that you're going to put this on, we end up not providing a wind or snow load rating unless you want to get one and have it stamped and certified, which we can do for you. However, again, it's not something that's done routinely on high tunnels. On roll-up sides, condensed moisture runs down the inside and grows algae. How should I handle this? The easiest way to do that would be if you had better air movement so that the humidity and or the moisture is better absorbed in the house. So I would think that if you had a little bit better ventilation, either through the gable ends or from your roll-up sides, that should handle it. If it doesn't, you may find that you need to add some kind of circulation fans in there or a small box fan just to move the air a little bit. What size do you recommend for someone just starting out? Well, that really depends on what your budget is. I've never had anybody complain because a high tunnel or greenhouse was too big. I have had people call back, though, in 6 weeks or 6 months and say that they should have gotten a bigger unit. So it really depends on what your budget is, how much property you have, what kind of space you have. But again, keep in mind, one of the beauties about the high tunnels is the fact that because they don't use electricity, the initial cost for the high tunnel is really all the expense that you're going to find. It's not unusual for you to recoup the amount of money that you spent on the high tunnel within the first year or two. Do you have any experience with growing trees such as cherries under high tunnels? I do not. However, I do know that there are people who are growing lemons, limes, and other citrus fruit under high tunnels because of the fact that they can manipulate the ventilation and that they have a tendency to stay a little bit warmer. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the requirements are for cherries as far as temperature, but again, there's no reason that you couldn't do it. How many ground anchors are needed for each tunnel? We recommend that each rafter leg has a ground post. So in other words, on a 72-foot house, you would have, you'd use 38. There's a total of 19 rafters, one on each side, so that's 38 ground posts. I'm interested in setting up an aquaponics system. It looks like the high tunnel would not be appropriate for this. Is there a low-cost alternative that would qualify for NRCS funding? I'm not familiar with NRCS funding any kind of aquaponics at the moment. That being said, however, usually aquaponics do much better in a greenhouse where you have a double layer of film, and you can also add shade because the tanks themselves don't like to be exposed to the sun due to the formation of algae. And again, because aquaponics involve living animals, you grow in them year-round, and it's very important that you be able to have some sort of a sloped flooring for the actual hydroponic growing part. So I don't think that that would be something that, again, would do well in high tunnels. I think you'd be better off in a greenhouse. How well do these stand up to high winds, greater than 70 miles an hour, 2 feet of snow? Again, because they're not heated, it's one of those things where 2 feet of snow all at one time, you're going to have to be able to access the high tunnel so that you can get in there if the snow looks like it's building up, and with a soft broom, just tap it so that it slides off. I definitely would recommend going with a round high tunnel in that particular case. I wouldn't go with a Gothic. And as far as high winds are concerned, you may want to use, instead of the regular 6 mil 4-year commercial grade greenhouse film, you may want to opt for the 5.2 ounce fabric. That has a tendency to be a little bit tougher, and it stands up to the winds a little bit better. However, it's not unusual for our high tunnels to be exposed to high winds and not have a problem whatsoever. It's one of those things where you're just going to have to watch it. Could you tell me the difference between the roll-up versus drop-down sides? Again, the main advantage of the drop-down side is where the air comes into the house and the temperature that the air comes in at. So because we're assuming that you're growing in the ground, if you then drop your side panels, the cold air will come in above your plants, and again, as the air becomes warm, it will rise up. So the plants themselves are not exposed to that cold air right away, especially true in the beginning in the morning when you just open the vents. My preference is for roll-up sides. I like those better because I think that they're easier to maintain. I like the fact that you roll them up and they go up and are out of the way, whereas with the drop-down sides, when the sides are in the down position, they have a tendency to stack up. Sometimes water can accumulate in there, and that's not one of my favorite things. But again, the main disadvantage of roll-up sides is early in the morning when you're opening those sides, that cool air is going to be coming in right at plant level, and there's a chance that you could cause some damage to the plants themselves. Is there a benefit to having the high tunnel run north-south or east-west to maximize sun and wind? Yes, there is. Usually if you're 40 degrees or higher in latitude, in other words, if you're in the northern section of the United States, you want to run the house so that it's east-west. In the south, you want to run it so that it's north-south. And the reason that you do it that way is based on a heat and light point of view. If indeed it's a greenhouse and you're growing year-round, then you're best off orienting north-south no matter where you live in the United States, because again, that will give you maximum light and heat advantage. So because you're heating it, there is a better way to do that. Is there a limit on length for manual roll-up sides? Yes and no. Technically, there is, if you're going to manually roll the sides up without a gearbox, you're going to have to either have a very big set of biceps, or you're going to find that the roll-up side is not going to roll up as easily or level as it would with a gearbox. So in that particular case, I wouldn't go any longer than, well, people do 96 feet and they'll still hand crank it. But any longer than that, I'd split the sides so that you would then have a roll-up curtain on one side and then another roll-up curtain on the other, and cut it in half so that indeed you can roll it. But again, it's something that you have to be pretty strong to do, because especially if you're using fabric rather than greenhouse film, because 90 feet ends up weighing quite a bit. Do you offer a polycarbonate roof with drop-down sides? Yes, indeed, we do. Again, in our latest catalog, we have different options that you can more or less pick and choose a la carte what you would like for roofing material, for roll-up or drop-down sides, so you can make sure that you get what it is that you're looking for. Will this webinar be available online after the webinar? We are getting ready to have a storm and our internet is becoming sporadic. Yes, indeed it will. It usually takes us about a week to get everything up and going, but you will be able to access the webinars or any of our past webinars directly from our website. What's the best placement lengthwise for maximum sun absorption, east to west or opening facing south? Again, it depends on what area of the country that you are living in. 40 degrees latitude or the Mason-Dixon line is what I like to use, so that if you're in the upper portion of the United States, you'd want to orient east-west. If you're in the southern portion of the United States, you want to orient north-south, again, based on a heat and light standpoint. That doesn't take into consideration growing through the winter. When it's windy, is it best to have the sides up or all down? Again, that's a question that I would leave the sides down, and the reason that I would do that is that, again, with some of the round high tunnels, it almost acts like an airplane wing where the air will go up and over the tunnel rather than going through it. It also depends on how you orient the house as far as prevailing winds are concerned. So again, even though I said it's best east-west or north-south, depending upon the area of the country that you live in, if you're susceptible to high winds, you may want to orient it so that the prevailing winds go up and over the house rather than straight through. I was more concerned about the tunnel being ripped from its anchoring. When you say anchors every 4 to 6 feet, how deep would they need to be? Does increasing the anchor depth reduce the number required? No. In our opinion, our ground posts are 36 inches in length. Again, depending upon whether your rafter spacing is either 4 or 6 foot, that would determine how far apart they are. And we recommend that you go 30 inches into the ground and then leave 6 inches exposed for you to be able to attach your baseboard at that point. Does the galvanized steel rust, and if so, how quickly? No, it's galvanized. It's triple galvanized. It's a system where the steel is galvanized on the inside and the outside. The actual frame itself is warranted for 3 years. However, because of the galvanized process and because it's an American-made product, you shouldn't see any kind of rusting whatsoever. Is the fabric covering better for the south? Again, the fabric covering will filter out more of the sun. So in the southern portion of the United States, I do recommend that you go with the fabric covering so that your house will stay cool. As everyone knows, it's more difficult to cool a house than it is to heat a house. So in high desert areas and or areas of the southern portion of the United States, it's my recommendation that you go with the 5.2 ounce clear fabric. It's a translucent material that, again, will allow approximately 85% to 88% of the light through, so that you still have adequate lighting for your plant needs, but it does help cut down on the heat. Which models are best for cold, windy Northeast? Again, in my opinion, the best tried and true model that we sell are our premium round style high tunnels. You have 4-foot spacing in the 30 wides. The pipe size is just under 2 inches. That in combination with the fact that you get a roll-up gearbox so that you can open the sides easy, and also the end panels are made out of that same 5.2 ounce fabric. I think that that's the best high tunnel that we have to offer, in my opinion. Lifespan of each fabric and film. The fabric you should get somewhere between, again, this depends on what area of the country that you're in, but for the most part, the fabric will last somewhere between 5 to 7 years. The film is a commercial grade 4-year 6 mil film. So what happens is that after 4 years, the UV material that has been utilized in the poly starts to break down, and the film will turn yellow and become very brittle. So you may get longer life out of the film than the 4-year warranty, but it's best to replace the film every 4 years so that you get maximum UV control. As far as the replacement costs are concerned, the main difference between the fabric and the film is you're looking at, for film, about 10 cents a square foot. The fabric can run about 30 to 40 cents a square foot. So it's a little bit more money for the fabric, but it does last for a longer period of time. The main difference is in the amount of light that gets transmitted. The film has a 92% light transmission, whereas the fabric is 85 to 88%. How important is it to build your high tunnel on a level surface? Well, again, just like anything else, the more level the surface, the better and easier it is to tend to the inside. However, that being said, if it's going to be on an unlevel surface, it will help with some water runoff, so it really doesn't make that much of a difference. What methods do you employ to install the anchoring system? The ground posts that come with the units also have included with them a ground post driver, which basically looks like a steel mushroom. You put that into the ground post, and then you take a sledgehammer and you hammer it down so that it's in the ground, as I said, approximately 30 inches. And that's done either every 4 feet or every 6 feet, depending upon which model that you use. Those are included in our kits. Your drip hose was shown, but I cannot find it in my catalog. Depending upon what catalog that you have, you may find that it's not in some of the smaller catalogs. However, if you go to our website, and the actual drip tape itself is part number 110742. You can plug that into the catalog item number on the left-hand side of the screen, and that should bring up the drip tape. Let's see here. What does one do in the case of high winds over 40 miles an hour? Again, if it's something that you're worried about, or, for instance, Hurricane Irene or a tornado, what you might want to think about doing is taking the cover off, letting the storm go through, and then putting the cover back on. That way you know for sure that nothing will happen to the house. I've got so many holes in my current grower supply high tunnel cover, I'm almost at 100% UV transmission. How much do repair kits run? We offer a very aggressive tape that can be used. The tape itself is used mostly for the fabric cover. As far as the film is concerned, if you've got holes in that as well, there is a greenhouse repair tape that we offer that you can find in the catalog. If you can't find it, please send me an email. I'd be more than happy to send you a link for it. Which model is customizable with polycarbonate? I am in the New Spring catalog. If you would just shoot me an email, I'll send you the link. It is in the New Spring catalog, and I'd be happy to show that to you. What recommendations do you have for installing ground anchors in very rocky subsoil? Well, you have a couple of choices there. You can either rent an earth auger, and we found here in Connecticut that when we installed one of our units here, we rented one of the earth augers, and it just went through the rocky New England soil without a problem. So that would be my first recommendation. If indeed that's something that you can't do, then the next thing that I would probably do is use a post hole digger and just a pry bar and just do the best you can. Your other option is to go with a earth auger itself instead of the ground post. However, that's going to even be more difficult because you've got a 4-inch steel plate at the base. When you're talking about prevailing wind, do you want the wind hitting the tunnel from the side or the end? Again, if you think of an airplane wing and the way that the air goes up and over the wing, I would orient it so that the prevailing winds will go up and over the high tunnel rather than on the short side. What is the best end closure, zippered or roll-up? Again, personal preference. I have found with the zippered end, we've just started using what we call a big zip. It's a more heavy-duty zip, and what I recommend to my customers is that you can purchase a bracket that attaches to the undersurface of the first and the last rafter, so that you take a 2x4 and put the 2x4 behind where the zipper is when the high tunnel is not being used. That way, when it does get windy and the wind starts blowing, that zipper will have a place to butt against, so it's not just flapping in the breeze. And we found that if you take the time to do that, that your zippered ends are going to last a good long time. The other hand crank models that we have on our GrowMax tunnels also are very good. They have the ability to crank up and down, but again, it depends on what size equipment that you really need to get in and out. Do you know of anyone that has set these units up as mobile units so that you can roll them from one area to another, thus letting the ground from one area get all of nature's benefits during the year? Yes, indeed. We've seen several of our models done that way. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with Elliot Coleman up in Maine. He has a system of rollers that enable the high tunnel to move back and forth. That is something that we are in R&D right now, and we expect to have something like that available in the next couple of catalogs. It's, again, something that I wouldn't recommend doing over a 36 or 48 foot long house. Otherwise you get involved in too much length, and I don't know how you would be able to actually control it back and forth. How easy is it to take the structures down and relocate them to another site? It's very simple. If you want, what you can do is just undo the nuts and bolts that are holding the ground posts to the rafters, take the cover off. I'd keep the rafters whole. If it were me, I would just buy some new ground posts, leave the ground posts where they are, move it to whatever site you're looking to put it in. Again, install the ground posts, put the rafters back in and cover it, and you'll be good to go. What about concreting the anchors? Again, concreting is always a good idea. It's also a good idea in some of the longer houses, the 72 or 92 foot long houses, especially in windy areas. I always recommend that you concrete or pin the first and the last rafter, and then also either one or two more in the center, so that you make sure and take extra precautions so that the house is nice and stable. How long can a high tunnel stay in place before you recommend it's moved to a new site? Again, depends on what kind of crop you're growing. I mean, if you're going to go ahead and do cover crops and make sure that you're tilling back into the soil nutrients that you're removing, you're going to find that, yes, indeed, that's a good thing. Okay, and here's our last question for today is referring to the earlier question about fabric having many holes. How often realistically should the cover be replaced? once again in the cold, windy Northeast. Again, if it's a fabric cover, you shouldn't have to replace the cover for at least 5 to 7 years. If you see that it's a ripstop material, you shouldn't be getting holes in it unless something's actually going through it. And if that indeed is the case, with this aggressive tape that I said, I would make sure that you cover the holes once they show up, and then that should take care of that problem. Thank you very much for joining us today. Again, if there is anything that you still have questions about that I didn't answer, please feel free to either call or email me, and I'll be happy to get back with you. Thank you. Go outside, enjoy the wonderful day, and get your hands dirty. Thanks.